No, because when Victor assigns some arrows as like a theme, Yuri's like, I'm gonna be sexy like a pork cutlet.
Oh, listen, I think everyone has the experience of looking at a piece of food and being like, this is the most erotic thing I've ever seen in my life. Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Pride Month.
And this week, we send off Pride Month with the figure skating anime Yuri on Ice. Before we land our quad-style triple loop combo jump, remember you can help us on Mortified, the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for our monthly newsletter through the link in our show notes, or following us on Twitter and Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Leyla,
Aaron,
it's time.
It is. We're going to make history.
It's been a long time coming, but finally, we're gonna talk about Yuri on Ice today.
Yes, which was your suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure people who are interested in anime remember back in 2016 when this thing was just like a huge success and like everybody was raving about it. But like, yeah, I never got onto the train, and I really wanted to catch up. And this gave me an excuse to, we're gonna, send off Pride Month with a very queer, positive show, and it fits squarely in our wheelhouse of gay things and anime and very specific sports competitions.
Yes. We've covered volleyball. We've covered ice skating. There's apparently a skateboarding anime. I think we should look into that.
A skateboarding anime?
Skateboarding anime. Very specific, right in our wheelhouse. Yeah, no, this is... I was surprised to hear this suggestion from you. Not because I don't think you would enjoy a queer ice skating anime, but just... It didn't feel like something that you would be naturally interested in without having somebody else kind of give you a prior lead-in, which would have been me in this situation. But even though I've put you through Princess Tutu, I did not feel confident in giving you just like a straight queer, ironically, just like an unfiltered queer romance, especially about ice skating, which is just not a sport people are typically very interested in. Have you watched ice skating ever?
I don't think so. I feel like there was a bit in 2018 when we were just like, we'd only been mutuals for a year, and like I would like follow your ice skating posts because that was the 2018 Winter Olympics, and you got really, really into it, and I was like, Leyla seems to be having a good time. But yeah, no, I have no understanding of ice skating before this, and now I actually have a little bit of context.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Correct. I am. I love ice skating. Audience, if you've missed this, I'm a Slav. It's one of our things. I would love to go to a Winter Olympics. If somebody wants to hook me up and take me, I will. Ironically, I will. I guess depends on who takes me. I will shed every nationality except for the one I'm rooting for. I used to work in an office and with a French Canadian, and it was during that time, like it was during that Winter Olympics, and we like got into it. Like we loved each other. We were on great terms. Whenever he came into the office, we had he usually worked outside. We loved each other. We always like hung out and dicked around. And then the Olympics happened, and it was just like, you French fuck! Like, it was just, it was so much. But yeah, no, I love ice skating, and I, still don't understand how it's scored, even though I've been watching it most of my life, but it is deeply important to me, and I do get very emotional when I watch it, both every 4 years, and then whatever qualifiers I can catch on the TV.
Yeah, well, definitely we're going to get into how the scoring affected the anime and, the actual technical aspect of it, because this show is surprisingly technical. I don't think it's quite as nitty gritty as Haikyuu because they don't have enough time to like really dig into it. But a lot of this is just straight up ice skating, and I think that's very interesting. And we're going to talk about that. Basically, Yuri on Ice is the story of Yuri Katsuki. He's a 23-year-old professional figure skater from Japan, and when the show opens, he has just bombed the shit out of like an important competition. He hasn't been able to get into the grand finals. He's just a complete mess, and he feels terrible. And he goes home to Japan, and he does a little skating routine that's copied off of his idol, who is named Viktor Nikiforov. Basically what happens is that goes viral because some very small girls, some triplets, posted on the internet, and like it goes viral, and that inspires Viktor to come down to Japan and become Yuri's coach. And over the course of these 12 episodes, they develop a routine. They have some friendly competitions, some not so friendly competitions with other skaters, and at the end, Yuri is able to make it to the grand finals, the Grand Prix, and it's a very it's a quick show, 22-minute episodes, 12 each. It's fun. It's not that hard. Like, despite all the skating talk, it's pretty easy to follow, and the characters are very distinct. And we'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think you were right in your instinct that like this isn't really a show for me because like there's not a lot of big explosions and fighting monsters, but like the character work was very interesting, and there's a lot of stuff to like. So it was enough to get me through it, despite the fact that I'm like I don't really like dancing, and there's a lot of dancing stuff. But no, I enjoyed it overall.
I would fuck so hard with like a Fast and Furious on Ice type shit. Just like some like magical girl level, just insane ice skating. I think that would be a fantastic show. And I'm sure because Disney listens to this podcast, this is our audition to be the Kingdom Hearts executives, as we all know. Make it happen, Mouse.
Yeah, I mean, oh, God. There's got to be somebody who worked on Promare is got to be working on some sort of weird ice skate combat anime in the future. That's got to be a thing.
Stop. No, they are working on a cyberpunk anime, which is going to be very interesting. Like based like Cyberpunk 2077, like in partnership with
like
CD
the
Projekt Red.
Cyberpunk.
Yes.
Man, R.I.P. to them, but.
Well, Trigger seldom disappoints, so I'm sure we'll watch it for this program because it's at the intersection of other things we've done. But I guess we'll fucking find out. Mm-hmm. Shall we go through our characters?
Yeah. Do you want to start with Yuri?
I would love to. I just now noticed that Yuri Katsuki is very close to Katsudan.
Yeah, that's probably intentional, huh?
Yeah, they probably did that on purpose. He's very food motivated. Point number one.
Very relatable.
His entire goal is to win so that he can eat pork katsu bowls because they're his favorite thing in the world to an insane extent. And you know what? Icon. I love that for him very much.
He's also like kind of, self-doubting. He's only 23, so he's not like anime protagonist young generally, but this is about actually the age that most anime protagonists should be, I feel like, because he still has this level of insecurity, but he's also enough of an adult to be like, not just like a weird child soldier.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love to add 5 to anime characters' ages so that I can watch it more palatably. I do also love that because he's 23, one of the bigger jokes in the show is that everybody finds Yuri incredibly sexy, and Yuri has no fucking clue.
Yeah, there's constantly shots of people just like, there's a lot of anime blushing in this program, but there's a lot of people just like, nosebleeds and just like, fangirling. And there's one person in particular, Kenjiro, who is like his like teen, Kenjiro is to Yuri what as Yuri is to Victor, and like, you know, Kenjiro's like what 15, 17. He's just idolizes Yuri, and every time Yuri does anything, he's like halfway in a swoon. It's so cute.
It is very, very cute. Also, when JJ went into the sunken place for some goddamn reason in the middle of his performance, if you look in the corner of the frame, he's like picturing Yuri looking down on him, and he's doing like this very sexy.
Yeah, no, he looks like he's doing this Ice Queen like sexy bitch thing, like looking down on him, like ha ha ha. It's so wild because Yuri has never looked like that once in his life.
No, because when Victor assigns some arrows as like a theme, Yuri's like, I'm gonna be sexy like a pork cutlet.
Oh, listen, I think
incredible.
I think everyone has the experience of looking at a piece of food and being like, this is the most erotic thing I've ever seen in my life. And you know what?
Yeah,
That's fair.
Shout out to the caprese salad I had at Lake Placid that did bring me to tears.
God. Oh.
That did actively happen. Now we brought him up. Let's just cover him. Let's talk about Victor, who you seem to have mixed feelings about.
Okay. We'll get into that into the body. But yeah, Victor is the 27-year-old. Basically, he is this Russian figure skater who, like, all of a sudden just retires after the end of like his winning another gold medal. You know, he's like world record holder. He's like the best figure skater ever, basically. He retires and he goes to train Yuri after seeing that viral video. And I have mixed feelings about him because of the way that his and Yuri's relationship starts out. A lot, like I said, Yuri idolizes him, and it's very weird to have, you know, somebody that you idolize show up at your house just naked in your family's hot spring. I feel like that's, you know, we'll get into it more in a bit, but there's something to talk about there. But generally, Victor, yeah, he's the coach. He plans out Yuri's whole, they call them like programs, I think.
Yes.
But like his routine, he has two routines that he dances / skates to. And you know, he's the main love interest basically to Yuri, and he is certainly an interesting character.
Yeah, I think he's a proof point as to why you shouldn't put people on a pedestal. I say that with all the love of my heart, but yeah, there's short programs, long programs, and free skates. I think those are the three. I might be wrong. It's been a minute since anyone skated in public. I wonder why. Next is the other Yurio. The ice tiger of Russia.
I didn't catch on to this until like the episode where they're actually in Moscow, but Yuri, yeah, like they're like, oh, he's the ice tiger of Russia, and like all his fangirls like throw like, you know, stuffed cats and like cat boy ears at him, and they all have like little cats on their shirts, and I was like, why do they call him that? But it's like he wears like a tiger shirt, and he's like, you know, that's his whole thing. But it's very funny that he is the ice tiger of Russia because he's also a 15-year-old, a huge bitch, and I love him kind of.
Yeah, he is motivated by rage mostly, which I think is very funny because Victor's whole challenge for him is the Gaper Agape, which is like a thing of unconditional love, and he like has to try to think of his grandpa to get through those skates, but like his final skate is so funny because he's just thinking of JJ and he just goes, shoot her!
Fucking hate JJ so much.
He's so fucking funny. I love him so much. It's funny. So I watched this for the first time in 2016. So how old was I? It's 25 years ago. So it was 2022. So it was like right around, just slightly younger than Yuri, not Yurio. And it's funny because it's that weird age, especially having just come out of college, where like you don't quite see teens as kids yet. So I was kind of annoyed with Yurio when I watched it the first time because I was like, what is this little bitch? And now I watched it as a 27-year-old. I'm like, this is so funny because this is a teen. Like, it's just hateful and hilarious. But I was a little bit worried going into the rewatch that they were going to play it like he had more of a crush on Victor, because that's how it read to me the first time. But like, that's not it at all. And it's just so nice because he's 15 and just such an asshole. He calls an 18-year-old a hag.
Which, like, yeah. That's really funny. Yurio is one of my. I think he's a very compelling character, especially his relationship with Victor and being like, this is a guy that I look up to. He's also kind of my idol, but also one of my biggest, competition people that I'm competing against. And I really just like the dynamic between him and Victor and Yuri, and Yurio being like, I don't understand why this guy from Japan, took all the attention away from me, and him like just trying to work out his feelings about that. I think Yurio's great.
He does do a lot of emotional work, and you know what? We stand king shit.
Yeah, so those are the three main characters, but there are a lot of other side characters, and we're gonna touch on a couple. Do you actually want to talk about Pichit first?
I have nothing to say to him about him other than he is perfect and I love him. And he is the only one with a brain cell in this entire outfit.
He rules. He's like, I think he's close to Yuri's age, maybe 20 years old, and he's like he's Taiwanese, right? Yeah.
Yes, he's a Thai skater.
Yeah, he's like the first like person to ever win a gold medal for Taiwan. And or Thailand.
No, Thailand.
Thailand, sorry. And he's really great. He's very into social media. Like his whole thing is like taking selfies and going to fun places. There's one part where he accidentally posts a very like lewd pic of Victor and Yuri because Victor got too drunk and just started taking his clothes off, and he was like, "Oops!" And there's just like him like with the selfie camera like making like a little fishy face in the background, like Victor's like hanging all over Yuri, and that's very funny.
And it's so funny because he's not the only one that took that picture. There were a couple of younger skaters that were 17 and 19 there that were like debating. They're like, we can't post this, right? Like, we're not supposed to post this. And then Pichit posts. He's like, I thought it was fine. I love him. He's so good.
Yeah.
He's the only one that realizes that Yuri and Victor got married.
Yeah. Everybody else is like, oh, those are just, practice rings. They're good luck rings.
Yeah, we'll talk about those rings. I think they're hilarious. So you don't like JJ very much.
I fucking hate JJ. He's so annoying.
I love that Canada got a son of a bitch.
Yeah, I think that's good. We have to play against types sometimes, right? Everybody's like, oh, Canada, they're the nicest people. They'll say fuck you with a smile. But no, JJ's just a huge douchebag who's like, I'm the king. Everybody follow me. I'm not even gonna, like, I'm not, like, sorry, Victor and Yuri, I know that you all are gonna get married, but actually, I'm gonna get married when I win the Grand Prix and get the gold medal, and then everybody just leaves after he says that.
I say this at risk of Marty disowning me completely as a friend. I'm, like, about to burn down a years-long friendship.
Marty, do not interact.
He has incredible Nickelback energy.
Oh no! That's so mean!
But tell me I'm wrong. But tell me it doesn't make you think of Rockstar by Nickelback.
It's a little bit Rockstar, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's quite as bad, but he definitely, like, wants to be... He wouldn't say no to starring in that video, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, Nickelback energy. I'm not saying it's the same quality. I'm saying it's the same vibration.
Yeah, very much like, I'm a cool guy. I'm going to do my own thing. Look at these photographs of me with all these gold medals. And I was so happy to see him just fizzle out in the final because he just annoyed me so much.
I do get emotional every time the whole audience like supports him though. That's just nice. It's just nice that even though he fails, everyone's chanting GG.
And then there's Chris.
And
so Chris is a Swiss skater, and he is
very horny for skating.
Yeah, I mean, like, Yuri's whole thing is, like, Eros, being, like, sexual love, but Chris is like, I have mature sexual love, and to prove that, like, there's a whole sequence in his thing where he, like, lifts his butt cheeks up, and they bounce, and, like, people are just, like, fainting in the audience because they're so turned on, and it is explicitly said that he reaches orgasm during his routine.
Twice, actually.
Twice. So that's...
It's a lot.
It's a lot. He's very funny, but I do hate him also.
Yeah, happy Pride to Chris. Also, yeah, he's... I do appreciate his energy of, like, coming to the pool with champagne. That's very fun, and I would like to do that sometime soon. You do have the Crispinos on this list. It's an energy.
So there's 2 Italian skaters also, Mickey Crispino and Sarah Crispino. Mickey is in love with his sister. There is no other read on that.
Yep, that's about as much as I want to say about them.
It's just so weird, and I mean, I guess we could start transitioning into the body of our podcast, but like, this is one of the things. So this show, it could have been probably like 8 episodes, but because they add so much stuff with the figure skating and all these other characters, you get these weird tangents. You get this weird arc with Mickey and his sister realizing that he is in love with her and like was way too protective of her trying to date other men. And I hate that I used other there, but it is like it's not an incorrect statement to say that Mickey kind of thinks of him as dating his sister, which is, it's so weird. And like, it doesn't, it has no narrative purpose besides to like, just show this weird story about these skaters, but like, it's in there and it's funny. And like, I'm not mad that it's in there. It's just so strange narratively speaking, because it doesn't add to the overall plot.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's that, and then there's also Georgie's whole thing, I can't, it's really hard for me to, like, unslav, but he, like, broke up with his girlfriend cheated on him, and his dances are all about heartbreak, so the first one's really angry, and the second one's really sad, and the funniest shit is she actively thumbs him down in the audience for the really sad one, so he's wild. That's another, like, weird story we get a lot of introspection into. There's Odebek, who I love. I love all the Slavs in this. We'll talk about it. And then we have Yakov and Lilia, the skating and ballet coaches from Russia. I fucking love them.
They rule. They were my favorite side characters, I think, that weren't skaters.
Yes. Lilia has 2 iconic lines that I wrote down. The first one is when she's coaching Yurio, and it's, no, forget who you were. Your past self is dead. Understand? Iconic. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And the second one is most people don't realize beauty is a force of righteousness. Without beauty, strength means nothing. That is... Listen, we'll talk about all the Slavic brutality in this show, but, like, that is how every Russian woman I've known thinks about beauty. Like, it is weaponized. So hearing that out loud was just, like, I felt like home,
Yeah, I mean, like, the Russian prima ballerina is a type, but I think it's executed very well here, and I really like just like this older, like, hyper competent woman being like, Yurio, you must sell your soul to win, and Yurio's like, okay, I'm in. This is it.
This is it. I'm prima ballerina now, bitch.
Yeah. And then Yakov is just like the coach that he was also Victor's coach, and then like. He is just constantly being antagonized by Victor, who Victor's like, hey, Yakov, do you want to hang out? And Yakov's like, you can only talk to me if you're begging to come back into the Russian skating circuit. And then, like, later when Victor's dog gets sick, like, Yakov, he's just like, hey, Yakov, will you be Yuri's coach? And Yakov's like, what the fuck? No! But then they end up being their coach anyway. It's so funny.
Yeah, and then when Yuri's talking to Yakov in the kiss and cry, which is what that area is actually called. It is called the kiss and cry. But Yuri's just like watching Yakov lecture him, and he goes, that's where Victor gets that from. Like, yeah. Yes, baby, that is where Victor gets that from. He's only had one coach, and he's gonna mimic that coach for all he knows. Then there was Kenjiro, who you brought up a little bit earlier. He's a younger skater in the Japanese circuit. Idolizes Yuri. I think it's very cute. He's an angel. My little jazz king. And then there's Minako, and she's a Yuri's ballet teacher. Obviously not like Russian prima donna. She used to be a dancer. She's retired now and teaches. But her whole goal is to travel with Yuri and meet hot skaters. And that is correct.
Listen, we gotta give it up. Like, listen, if you're flying all over the world to meet like professional athletes, you gotta get laid. Like, I respect that.
I mean, that's what the Olympics are. They're all fuckdome.
Yeah, I've heard that. Like, there's significant like STD outbreaks at the Olympics every year because everybody's just blasting each other.
It is so bad that at Tokyo they are still going to hand out free condoms to the athletes, like a ton of free condoms to the athletes, even though they're like, but you shouldn't because of COVID. But they're like, they're gonna anyway, because you're stuffing hundreds of the world's hottest, most chiseled bodies with the best stamina and sense of rhythm in one fucking village. They're not big. I've seen the one at Lake Placid, and you're like, yeah, don't fuck. They're gonna fuck.
Listen, that's what harm prevention's all about, right? You try to discourage the behavior, but you also know that if the behavior is almost certainly gonna happen, you make it not terrible. And you that's why I think that we should have syringe exchange programs and also condoms at the Olympic Village. It's basically the same thing.
Yes, it's absolutely, we're definitely going to equivocate those two things, and I'm going to say that not only are they going to fuck, but it's going to be long and athletic, and God bless them. I literally have never been happier, except for when knowing that Olympic athletes are having a great fucking time, especially now that they're letting more people be openly queer about it. R.I.P. Adam Rippon. Not R.I.P. He's still alive, but he's retired. Too bad Adam Rippon won't be there because I'm sure he was charming and delightful, and I hope he had... Oh, he's engaged. But I hope at some point or another he had a great time. I like that I'm having a great time just, like, trickling in skating trivia. Because I do just, like, retain a bunch of it. I think you brought up earlier, this is just a fun fact that I don't know how else I'm going to slide in, so I'm going to take a moment to slide it in. You mentioned that people were throwing, like, stuffed food at Yuri, which I thought was so fucking funny. Did you notice that?
I was like, why is there just a sushi on the ice skating rink?
They're throwing stuffed food at him because during his intro at the competition against Yurio, the announcer was like, and Yuri Katsuki is dancing to arrows, trying to evoke a pork katsu bowl, which is, how dare you do him that dirty while he's trying to ooze sex appeal. But anyway, so they do actually do that. People throw like flowers and stuffed animals. There's one skater in particular, his name is Yuzuru Hanyu, I think. Am I correct? Yes, Yuzuru Hanyu, and he's, I believe, a Japanese skater, and it's always Winnie the Pooh's, and he gets the most Winnie the Pooh's fucking ever. Like, it is, they literally ice ring. He donates all of them to Chillins. Isn't that nice?
That's so cute.
That's so sweet. So yeah, that does actually happen, and that's my little bit of a skating trivia before you move into the body of our program, where we could talk about, it's the fact that Yuri on Ice is a show that came out in 2016, and it was fucking immensely popular.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wasn't able to watch it at the time, but like it just seemed like it was everywhere. Everyone was talking about it, at least on the people that I follow on Twitter, and it was just a big phenomenon. I was just wondering, if you had any idea why that was.
Your guess is as good as mine. So I am the kind of person that avoids things that get too popular because you never know why. And I got burned really hard with Free. Do you remember Free?
What is Free?
The swimming one.
No, I've never heard of this.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's I think very queer baity, I think, if I remember correctly, swimming anime. I only watched a couple episodes, it was fine. But it really started this, like, queer sports anime craze. And so when Yuri on Ice came around and everyone was hyping it, much like Promare, I was like, there's no way it's that fucking good, I'm not watching it. And then Marty and I ended up watching it, and it is perfect. I think well, it's not perfect, but you know what I mean. I think part of the appeal is that Yuri on Ice exists in a world where homophobia isn't a plotline. Do you know how nice that is to watch? It's just nice. Like, they got engaged. It became like a public thing. None of the other skaters, none of the news outlets, none of the families, nothing. No one said a fucking word about them being gay. Like, it just wasn't a thing. Done. That's great. It's not always the right move for like a piece of media, but I think for this one,
I think that's a good point. Yeah, like there are situations in which you do want to highlight real world examples of oppression and discrimination, but in a skating anime that's just about like people that are in love, I think that's completely fine. Like it's a big discourse thing in TTRPGs and fantasy, and being like, oh, you shouldn't have fantasy racism, or versus fantasy racism can add something to your world and your narrative. But for something as fun and upbeat and relatively low stakes as Yuri on Ice, that's not that doesn't mean I want to diminish its importance or significance, but Yuri on Ice is not trying to make any big statements, and they're just that fact that they're not trying to say anything besides just like, this is a love story about two ice skaters. I think that's really important, because like they are in some ways making a big statement by not including homophobia, by saying like, this is just sort of how the world should be, and it's fine and it's cool, and this is aspirational, and maybe we should have more media like this.
Yeah, I mean, there's some discussion I've been following loosely surrounding the fact that a lot of Western media is trying to take this stance kind of universally of like, well, we shouldn't depict homophobia, but then we have to talk about the fact that even in America, even in Europe, there's still a lot of very actively harmful legislation. A lot of people face a lot of violence. There's anti-trans bills right now, like a big surge of them. Queer people frequently get mistreated out in public. Not everyone can be out. And that those narratives of oppression, whether or not they're overcome, are still more relevant in other parts of the world. So having a lot of these, especially younger Western fans, critique things that show homophobia is kind of regressive, because not every story is about America. You know what I mean? But that being said, the leading ideology of this show has less to do with the romance, which is like its key plot, and more to do with your typical sports anime shit of like working hard. And it takes a real, I don't know if this was intentional, but it takes this like really, especially with sports that like with such a high, I guess, turnover and such a low retirement age, such as skating, it is just such like I feel like a lot of it leads with this note of like, you only get to burn bright for a little while and things like this. So like you have to work hard, and like Victor says to Yurio in the end, like you have to live your dream because you're the only one who can do it the way you can do it. And like those are the core motives of this show, and it has nothing to do with like the queerness is just like a natural facet of it. And I think that's fine. Like this is the story to do that with,
Definitely. You've got a note about a kiss controversy. Do you want to dig into that real quick?
Yeah, a bunch of people, like women, were like, that wasn't a kiss. It was a kiss. You saw it, right?
I mean, he tackled them onto the ice. Like, yeah, it seemed pretty explicit to me.
Yeah, they said that because there's a controversy that because their mouths were covered up by the arm, it was like the coward's way out. No, what? No. It was a kiss. Relax. It was 2016. Again, not a Western narrative. They got away with what they could get away with. I'm sure it was like a production thing. And if not, it might have been a creative choice. It was a kiss. That's it. That's the controversy, is that people were like, it was a kiss. Shut up.
Mm-hmm. So speaking about the romance between Victor and Yuri, this is what I was alluding to earlier. It wasn't an age gap thing, which I really appreciated. Like, they made 23 and 27 is a perfectly fine age gap in a relationship. I thought it was a little, at least initially, I was a little bit worried about the fact that Yuri idolized Victor so much, and then Victor just rolled up, because like I do think that when somebody has that kind of power or influence over you, it does create an imbalance in a relationship. And like I was at first like, I don't love the idea that Victor could just like roll up into Yuri's life and Yuri will do everything for him. But I do think that they pull it off, because like after the first couple episodes, once their relationship stops being like, Victor just being like, oh, hey, Yuri, I'm your coach now. And Yuri being like, oh, my God, this is like the guy I've been idolizing for years and years and years. Like, and he's just like here now. Like, it becomes more of an actual relationship where they can like have arguments and talk about things they like and dislike. I really liked how that played out, and it became more about like what they could do together and about Yuri's career, and not necessarily like how grateful Yuri was to be with Victor.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely, well, especially like now there's so much, there's a lot happening in comics right now. I don't know if you've heard about
There's always a lot happening in comics.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But about somebody taking advantage of a position of power like that in order to take advantage of multiple fans. And yes, like that's very concerning, and you should, power dynamics like that are definitely wow. I think on a second watch though, I read so much less into that because you go in with the context of the fact that Yuri got fucking wasted and made Victor dance with him. So Victor's coming in with, this guy wants to fuck. So he's coming in on equal footing. Yuri has no idea this happened. He completely forgot, and nobody tells him until they're all at dinner. And they're like, wait, you don't remember? We've all been operating under the assumption that you remember doing this. And he was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So Victor came in hot with this whole skating ploy. Because, I mean, like, he needed something new in his career, but also because he's like, that guy's down to fuck. It is. And Yuri just had, like, no idea what was going on the whole time because he's a little Katsudan, and we love him. Both of the protagonists in the show are criminally fucking dumb. Like I said, Yuri and Pichi are, like, really, really brain cells. But, yeah, so it's... when you have that context, you're like, oh no, Victor thinks they're on equal footing. Yuri has no idea that they're on equal footing.
Yeah. I actually listened to a podcast recapping Yuri on Ice a couple years back, and I remember them talking about this, but I forgot it. And then when this thing happened, I was like, oh shit, I remember this. And then I think that at the end of that episode, because it's like episode 11, but like the last, like, the credit sequence, they show like the party pictures, and they show like Yuri and Chris doing like the sexy stripper dances, and like, Yuri like grinding up on Victor, and it's really funny. And then Yuri is just like, oh no. And like when they talk about it at dinner, Pichit's like, wow, Yuri, this is really sexual. And Yuri's like, no, please don't look at that. And it's just adorable, and also very funny because like, I've definitely been in a social situation where it's been like, I don't feel good right now, but if I drink maybe 4 drinks, I'll actually I'll have a good time instead of a bad time. So I feel Yuri. I've been there, man. Maybe not there, but Yeah, much like I think we talked about this during Greatest Fucking Showman of all things, but like any media right now showing a party makes me desperately want to go to a party. And like, listen, y'all, anxiety ruined my stomach. I can't drink all that much anymore unless it's like top shelf. So like drinking for me gets pretty expensive because everything else upsets my stomach. And God, what I wouldn't give right now to be like hanging out and maybe a little more than tipsy. I think that would be a delightful time for me right now. And it is just fucking inaccessible. And that is tragic. I just want to be dressed up and drunk after watching this. That's what I want to be, at a banquet and out of my mind. Oh, one of these days. Listeners, for $5 a month, you can make it so me and Leyla can have enough money to throw a frivolous and expensive banquet so that we have an excuse to spend your money and get dressed up and get really drunk. So if you want to just slip us a $5 every month, you can go to mortified.patreon.is.kofi.
Well, I think we can actually take donations through our link tree now, which I think is very funny. But Real talk, watch Undone Season 2 when it drops. I think early next year, at the end of this year. Watch it on repeat, play it for your dog so that there's a Season 3, and then if I get rehired at my current rate, I will just fucking pay for an Airbnb where me, Aaron, and 10 of our closest friends can just get a little drizzy.
Extremely fucked up. That would be great.
So yeah, get me renewed, and then I'll make it happen in Ohio or some other central location.
Maybe not Ohio. No offense to Ohio.
Full offense to Ohio.
Yeah, actually, fuck Ohio.
Though also, fuck Ohio twice because they somehow have the best license plates.
Damn.
But so anyway. I recently got my New York plates, so I've been thinking about this a lot because New York has had some ugly plates recently. Anyway, we were talking. We were talking about power imbalances in relationships. It should be said that Victor is an incredibly good skater, and like you were trying to allude to earlier, this show is extremely about ice skating.
Yeah. So like, there is so much technical talk for only being 12 episodes, and a lot of like the competition arcs just like show people doing their routines. And you talked about this in your notes, but like a lot of that is just because they can reuse those animation frames, which is very smart, and I don't blame them for doing that. But like, yeah, a lot of it is just like watching the same routines with like slight variations, like different like jumps, or like maybe they would fall one time. But I think it's so interesting that they get so deep and technical into like the sport of figure skating. Yeah,
no, it really is, because I mean, like, people know that like part of the highlight of figure skating is jumps, but like not a lot of people can be like, oh, well, that's a loop and that's a salchow, and that's a Lutz. So it is very technical, but like you said, I mean, that's the easiest way to make this show, right? Is you put a figure skater, you can just put them on ice, or if you want to get like crazy with camera shit, like the movie does, from like the one clip that of Yuri on Ice Adolescence, which is the Victor origin story that's coming out, I think, later this year, early next year. If you want to get some like really crazy camera shit, you put them in a mocap suit, and then you just film them from a couple of different angles, and that's it. And so this kind of production would require, because they do a lot of jump combinations, right? So Yuri does one that I think is like a salchow into a single into a loop. So you just get a quad sal into a single loop, a quad sal, and you just like go down like whatever permutations of these jumps that like you need to get the base footage, and then you just put anime heads on those people, and like you can see that when like Yuri and Victor are skating together, right, in one of the coaching sessions, like they're frame on frame, it's like the same animation. There's nothing wrong with that, it looks great, but like it's just such a smart production, right? Like it's so, and you could like they hired a skater for it, or skaters probably plural, and you know how much I love artists getting paid. So it's just, I don't know, I just think it's so neat, because like I don't know how accurate Haikyuu is to the sport of volleyball, but like they explained skating scoring to us in Ep 4, so I mean, like they at least made an attempt.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate that, because like you want it to, if it's based on a real sport, you want it to be about as real as you can get while still keeping like some of the anime shit. But like the way that they deploy the technicalities and the scoring of skating, it does add to the narrative, because there were some moments in there where like I was, at the end I was like, Yuri's probably gonna at least place, if not win the whole Grand Prix outright. But like there are bits in there where I was like, oh no, I know this is probably like in a story arc, this is where Yuri's going to, have something bad happen to him. And like, it gets really tense when he does the jumps. And I was just kind of like holding my breath every time, because I was like, oh no, if he messes up this jump, he's going to get, points deducted, and that's no good. And like, I do appreciate how they made that relevant to their story, and they brought the audience in, even if the audience doesn't necessarily know anything about figure skating.
Yeah, I mean, like, you put it in your notes, like, there's a lot of, like, great tension buildup, and there's so many ways to fuck up a jump is the thing, right? You can put your hand down on the ice, that's a fucked up jump, you could over-rotate, you can slip out there's a moment where I think Yuri steps out of a jump, that's another thing you could do. You can just flat fall on your ass, that's a thing, or you can make like Yuri and slam your face into concrete.
Yeah, that's how I was like, I don't know how Yuri scored so well on that particular one, because he like did just get his whole fucking skull caved in. But like he did. This was like one of the ones where he was competing against the junior competitors from Japan. So like he was like, in a lot of much higher tier than them. So like they all got like in the 60s and he got like a 90. But like I was still like, man, he did break his nose. So it doesn't exactly 100% explain the scoring, but you do get enough of it to understand and to have attachment to the various plot beats.
Yeah, I mean, it's from what I understand, skating fans don't come for me. From what I understand, the scoring is very much based on difficulty. So, like, you can get as high you raise your maximum score with your difficulty, and then it's the execution of those things that are deducted. So, if your program is less difficult, you can't reach the same max score as somebody doing, like, 4 quads on a program, Another skating fun fact, American skater Mirai Nagasu at the last Olympics broke a world record with, I think, her difficulty. She landed some, like, insane jumps. I think 3 triples in a row or some shit. I don't know. I don't remember what the record specifically was, but chef's kiss. Love to see an American skater. I'm telling you, the Slav just sheds the moment I have to pick a country to support. But, yeah, so, but I think the thing that helps with the understanding of the sport is having the audience. Because you can kind of gauge how you're supposed to be reacting with how the audience in the show is also reacting, which is what I do at real life sporting events. So cheer when other people cheer.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, I do like they can, they give you cues, like the audience gets hyped up and it's like, oh, this must be very impressive. Like, it's hard to tell, right? Because when you're watching anime, like, all the physicality and the energy of the show is exaggerated, and like, we're used to watching anime characters pull off impossible stuff, but like, having that audience be there and being like, oh wow, this, landing a quad is super hard, like that gives you the context that you need to understand it. And I do appreciate it how Yuri on Ice deploys that in a way that makes it accessible to people who don't know anything about figure skating.
Yeah, I mean, you knew when to gasp. You knew when to clench, right?
and also just go
ahead. There was a lot of clenching. That's
what I was going to say. Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I love that. Well, the other thing they do is that, like, we were talking about how much, like, the skating is reused is because it's reused under a variety of internal monologues. And I think like right in episode 12, I was just watching Victor watch Yuri skate, and I was like, God, it must be so hard to watch your skater change their program in a competition. I would shit liquid the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, like, that happens a couple times in the episode, and, like, all the coaches are like, fucking shit, fuck, but, like, it's their internal monologue, and their faces are just, like, blank, like, okay, good. And I love that. One thing, though, that happens in Yuri on Ice that that we should talk about is the part where, like, Yuri is really, really nervous for one of his competitions, and Victor, in order to try to motivate him, because he's trying to do what, Yakov does, apparently, he's like, oh, well, skaters' hearts are so fragile. I wonder what'll happen if I shatter Yuri's. And he's like, well, Yuri, if you do bad in this competition, I'm just going to go back to Russia. I'm going to be done. And Yuri just, like, bursts into tears, and Victor's like, oops. And, like, I was very upset with Victor at that, because it's kind of a shitty thing to say, bro.
Yeah, he was engaging in what I referred to a couple times in my notes as Slavic brutalism. That is some shit Slavs will pull. Is it good? No, it's not good. I don't support it. But I think that moment was one of the first moments I cried, because I found myself relating to Yuri like a troubling amount, like a I should go to therapy amount. But Yuri said something along the lines of, I don't need you to say anything, I just need you to stay close to me and believe that I can win more than I can. And I'm like, wow. And that's part of Yuri's growth, right? Because he starts out as this very, like you said it yourself, like he'll just do whatever Victor says for a while. But that is kind of a turning point in their relationship where Victor does something that takes him off of the pedestal that Yuri used to have him on and puts him on Earth, and Yuri is able to stand up for himself. And then there's like a couple of inner monologue times where he like critiques Victor's coaching too, which is I think great. But yeah, listen, it wasn't a great moment personally, but I thought it was nice narratively.
Yes, I do think it is important, and it does like make a break between, you know, Yuri seeing Victor as this person that he should always look up to, and like seeing him as like a real person that makes mistakes and is kind of careless with his words and his actions sometimes. And it works narratively, but like it did make me feel like, I don't know if Victor, maybe Yuri could do better. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think their romantic arc is very satisfying in the end. I'm not sure if you're allowed to coach and compete at the same time. That sounds fake.
Yeah.
But I think the romance is really satisfying. I don't know. I thought it was nice. Maybe I just have a higher bullshit threshold though with things like this, because I love romance as a genre. I think it's nice to watch people in love.
Yeah.
You have a much more sober view of relationships.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
I'm a former Catholic, so that unfortunately colors a lot of my feelings about expressing any sort of affection. But in this show that is about two men that are clearly in love with each other, I think that, you know, as we're rounding out the end of this podcast, we should talk about the fact that like anime is a medium that is notorious for being having two straight men say the gayest shit to each other, and then having them both, you know, get married to women and have children that look like them but smaller. And like it's just so nice to be like, oh yeah, this is just about men who are in love, and that's fine.
Get married to women, have children that look like them but smaller, but then still engage in the gayest shit on television. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, this you wrote a whole essay about this phenomenon, and I just think that it's nice to actually see the logical conclusion of that, which is like, no, they're just gay.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. So just to clarify on my essay, I guess, because I think we've mentioned it a couple of times and we've never elaborated. The reason that my theory of the case is that the reason characters like that come off gay is because women, the female characters, don't reach the same developmental equilibrium. So it's like, if you're not willing to give the female characters in your shows the same development as the men, they're less compelling and have less compelling interaction with the male characters. So like Kairi, who we love, doesn't really get to interact with Riku and Sora the way that Riku and Sora get to interact with each other. So there's like an inherent queerness to their melodrama. Same with like, if you've ever watched The Witcher, Geralt and Jaskier, very gay. And even though the female companion in their trio is developed, her conflict is all about motherhood and feels separated from the way Geralt and Jaskier's conflict interacts. So that's weird. The anime we have been dancing around, trying not to name, Naruto, Sakura is like a pet rock, basically. She just doesn't get anything other than loving Sasuke, and the problem is that Sasuke and Naruto are in love. Like it's very hard to watch because I think Sakura deserves better. But yeah, and there's really, the funny thing is that the women in Yuri on Ice have motivations and wants and desires. Like they're just as developed as the male side characters. Even the creepy siblings. Like Sarah has motivations and wants and desires, which is to not have her brother hovering over her. Minako wants to fuck an athlete. Agreed. I really love Yuri's family, but the mom just wants to like support her son, right? It's just we get insights into these women's lives like we don't in a lot of other media, and that makes it feel like the men in their midst are just raging homosexual. So like, shout out to bisexual king Yuri Katsuki, because he does think women are attractive, and I love that representation for my community.
It's very good. We have no choice but to stan. Leyla.
Yes.
We have started a segment on this podcast.
That we haven't been able to name.
That we still have not named. The unnamed Mortified marketing segment. How Yuri on Ice is relatively recent, so I don't know that marketing it in 2016 would be that much different from marketing it today. So let's set it today. If Yuri on Ice is coming out in 2021, what is your grand marketing plan to market it, let's say in America?
Well, Aaron, here's the thing. We have a beautiful opportunity here because Yuri on Ice is coming out in 2021. The movie Yuri on Ice Adolescence. So we can fucking market it. As you so lovingly pointed out, while I was lamenting not being able to go to a live skating event in my notes, there is one in Boston. Two in Boston in September, in January, and I will be trying to go. I absolutely will be trying to go. I have a friend who lives in Boston, and I have somewhere to stay. I think that entering listen, Lilia said it, you have to sell your soul to win. Why not also sell your body? Why not enter an American skater who will just cosplay as they skate and compete?
I'm interested. What would they be cosplaying as?
Just putting on the outfits from the anime.
Oh!
Yes!
Oh, that's really good!
Come on, Nathan Chen dressed up as like a young, sexy Victor.
Oh my God.
It.
Yeah, or they could have various wigs, so they could, more accurately portray various characters. Oh, that's a really, really good idea.
And you don't even have to have it in a competition setting, like nationally ranked competition setting. Adam Rippon, you're fucking a retired queer. Put on a wig and the Eros outfit, get out there skating with the stars. What the fuck are we doing?
Oh my God, yeah, that's a show, isn't it?
Is it? Should be.
I think it is. Is it not?
I mean, there's Dancing with the Stars.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, there's gotta be skating reality TV show.
There's a ice skating reality TV show. That's my weekend.
It's literally called Skating with the Stars.
How do I not know about this?
It's been running since 2010.
How do I not know? What?
Apparently you did know about it. It was just in your psyche.
I knew it existed. But yeah, I think that's my grand marketing scheme. Also, the fake businesses that sponsor Yuri on Ice could sponsor real skating competitions and then put out like adverts. Or, if people just Google the fake businesses that sponsor those.
Yes, the Yuri on Ice ARG we've all been waiting for, finally.
Yeah, you and your love for ARGs. What about you? Do you have any marketing ideas?
I don't think I have any that are better than that.
Good. A hole-in-one. Hire us, Viz Media. Let us market your movie about teen skaters.
Oh, Christ. Oh, Leyla, when we're not coming up with ways to sell already extant media properties to the people who have already watched them, where can people find us on the internet?
You can find me at LEYLSES at Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm working on reviving my webcomic. I think I'm also going to try to work on the Katsudon Pirashiki recipe that is in this show. So if that's something you're interested in, mortifiedpod@gmail.com. I will share the recipe. I will be experimenting with that. Aaron, what about you?
God, that rules, actually. I do want that recipe. You should find me on the internet at AaronSXL on Twitter, where I talk about politics and healthcare. You can listen to the other podcast that I do at The Bible Boys on Twitter. We just watched the 2008 firefighter wedding drama called Fireproof, with starring Kirk Cameron just being like really horny for boats. Wild show.
I was just going to say it's an unhinged episode. So if you're going to dive into the Bible Boys lore, that's a pretty good starting point for the energy that you're going to get at its peak.
Yes, it was a very fun episode. We talked about some very upsetting stuff. Personally, I also recently was hired to write a blog post for the Story Engine deck. So if you want to read my post, you've got to try collaborative world building for your next campaign. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, but I was very happy to write that blog. I love collaborative world-building games, and I got to cite some really fun ones. So please check that out.
Yes, it's a really great piece, and you've heard Aaron DM on this show before, and he's very, very good at it, intimidatingly so, and is a great person to talk about collaborative world building because he let me play the victim of an MLM and somehow made it work in a Kingdom Hearts context. So if that's not a proof point enough, I don't know what else this man has to do for you people.
Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. Find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Leyla, we were born to make history, so how do we close this podcast out?
I just want to keep winning and keep eating pork cutlet bowls.
Oh, ain't that the fucking truth. See you all next week.
God, I want a pork cutlet bowls.